Humanity Matters.
Hello and welcome to another installment of Legacy Chronicles. My name is Zachary Graulich and I'm the Assistant Director of Education here at hmTv. And today I have a very special guest, Miss Consolee Nishimwe. Consolee is a survivor of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Consolee, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Consolee, we've worked together for quite some time.
Yeah.
So I know your story pretty well, but I would love for you to share briefly for our listeners, what is your story? Where do you come from? And as I said, you're a survivor of the genocide in Rwanda, 1994. So talk a little bit about what your experiences were and how you survived.
Yeah. I was born in Rwanda, so in a western province of the country, in a place called Kibuye. Rengera, specifically in a town called Rengera. So I'm a small town. So and I was in 1994. I was 14 years old, and I was very fortunate. I had we have 5 kids in our household, and my sister who was 11, Jeannette, and my younger brother Philibert who was 9. And my other younger brother was 7, Pascal, and the youngest Bonfils, who was 16 months old in 1994. So my parents were my two parents were teachers, and many of our family members lived not too far from each other. We were just my grandparents, my cousins, my uncles, many of our family members. So in 1994. Unfortunately, me and my family, right after the former president, plane shut down April 6th throughout the country. April 7th, they started murdering Tutsis throughout the country. So, and unfortunately, because it was a well-planned genocide, so they wanted to exterminate the minority Tutsis. And unfortunately, my whole family, we had to go into hiding for 3 months. And during the period of 3 months, hiding, seeking refuge in homes of Hutus who are neighbors and friends. And unfortunately, some of them have done horrible things to our family. And during that period, of course, they used machetes and clubs and other weapons to murder Tutsis and destroying our homes and everything we had. And unfortunately, during that period, my father was murdered, and it was not too long after the genocide started. And later on, throughout the time in hiding in the bushes and homes and of people who were kind enough to hit us at that time. And unfortunately, we discovered sometimes, and my brothers were taken and murdered, slaughtered to our already destroyed home, and threw the bodies in septic tank of our home. And it was not easy. We kept hiding, even though we didn't want to hide any longer. But during that period, because women and girls were tortured and raped in most horrible way, because rape was used as a weapon, as it happened in Rwanda, it happened some other places too. So, and many women and girls were really tortured in the most horrible way. Unfortunately, that I didn't escape that. So that happened to me, by a neighbor that I knew very well. So, and I didn't know I was going to survive, but I kept hiding. My mom, my sister, now the 3 of us remaining. So, and seeking refuge again to homes of people we knew very well, friends. And by the grace of God, someone at the end, in a Muslim community, hid me and my mom and my sister. That's how we're able to survive. And of course, the RPF, which was led by the current president we have in Rwanda, so President Paul Kagame. So, and they stopped the genocide. That's how we also throughout the country, those remaining Tutsis who survived were able to survive. So, and that's also how me, my mom, and my sister were able to survive. And it was not easy. But and after that, many of my family were killed, and my uncles, my cousins, my aunt, many of my family members on my dad's side. Almost everybody was killed. There were only few grandchildren who survived. And then on my mom's side, at least my mom has a sister, older sister, who is my aunt, and other few, cousins I have, and first cousins I have, and then other few extended family members, some of them who lived in exile. So, and at least I have, a parent, because where I come from, many of my friends lost their entire families. They don't even have a parent. So, and really, I am so grateful that and I have a sibling too, so who survived with me. So, and but of course, at the same time, I lived with the trauma and all, the things that I've gone through. But we had to live again, and that's how my mom went back to teach and started to give us a life again, even though we carried so much pain within. I was a kid who carried so much trauma going back to school. Everything was images of the things that I've gone through, but I have to persist, and of course with the help of my mother. And but later on, finding that I was HIV positive was also another constant reminder of everything that I've gone through. So many women live with those consequences, and I'm not the only person. So, and some of them have had children, and to me, I had a parent. So, but at the same time, I carried so much pain, but I had to also, push myself to never give up on life, and by the grace of God, I'm here.
Well, firstly, I'm so sorry for all of your losses. And secondly, thank you so much for sharing. There's really no words to describe, everything that you just shared. And for you to summarize probably the darkest, 3 months in your life in just a few minutes, I am so appreciative, and so appreciative of you sitting here today and sharing your story with us. And you touched on it a little bit, but I'd like to expand a little bit more. So after the genocide, what was it like for you, as a young woman, a young girl, just a teenager, as you said, finding out that you were HIV positive, you lost 3 of your siblings, your father, cousins, aunts, uncles. What was that like for you? What was that process of healing like?
It was a long journey. It was a long journey, and but one of the things that really helped me the most in the early stages, going back to school, I was still young, a teenager, of course, trying to be normal like everybody else, but at the same time, I carried so much within. And I remember in school, all the time I saw images in my head. Whenever I sat down and trying to, to focus, and all I could see are images of everything that I've gone through. So it's harder to really stop that within yourself because they live within yourself. But one thing that really helped me the most is to just go home with a mom who constantly, show me love, despite her own pain, but she created that safe space where I felt, loved again, and she showed love to everybody around her. So, and she really kept reminding me and my sister and my other cousin, actually, who happened to live with us at that time. She had 3 teenagers, raising 3 teenagers. So, and kept reminding us how to live a life despite our pain. But it was not easy. A mother who carries so much pain within her, but then at the same time, she felt like she needed to give us a place where we felt loved again and have hope again. It was not easy. But one of the things that really helped me the most is to become more closer to her. She became my best friend and my everything to me. So at least I really felt really, close to her, that really helped me really so much to deal with everything, at least throughout my time in high school, to finish school and to be able to study and be able to do, at least be able to do well at school. But at the same time, it helped me at school to be able to find things that helped me. For instance, like I used to dance with, traditional dance. And it's really helpful. Really helped me somehow to feel happy, a little bit happy in the time I was doing that. But whenever I was alone and quiet, everything came back. So, but I needed, really in those times, it really helped me. But at the same time, I needed to also find ways in the near future to deal with my own trauma in another healthy way, because you can't live like that for the longest period of time. You really need to at least, find the help in some ways. So, which happened to me later on. And
absolutely. So, you did the best you could, of course, as did the rest of your family after the genocide, to cope with the trauma, try to find happiness where you could. But as you said, it was very difficult. So I want to ask, was your eventual decision to leave Rwanda and move to the United States, was that a decision that was based on the fact that you kind of wanted to leave that past behind? Where did that decision come from? And how old were you when you moved to the United States?
After finishing school, at the same time, everything was still so painful. Every area, every place reminded me something. So, and I wanted somehow to live, to start a life where at least I can I can be happy, fully happy again. But I needed to be far away from that for some time. So, and luckily, I was able to move to the United States. I was hoping and praying that would happen, even by the time I was in high school, that because I had a cousin who moved here. So somehow I felt like I needed to move. That's the only place I could think of because she was here. So, and luckily it happened. So I was so happy because that's what I needed. That's what I needed for me. So when I came, I felt like everything was going to go away right away. So, but I was carrying the pain with me. So there's no way you can run away from your pain. So that in my head, I felt like that would be the best way. But at the same, of course, it helped. But at the same time, I was carrying so much pain within. And that's when I arrived here. It was around 2001, December of 2001. And I was in my 20s, early 20s, so about to be 23, to be half 24, I believe, around that time. So, and I at that time when you're at that age, you feel like life is going to be better. You're going to feel better, but I needed to, I needed help. Yeah, I needed help, and that's when many years passed and I was able to seek therapy. And that therapy helped me to start learning how to embrace life and how to, just deal with my trauma in the most healthier way and talk about it. And I started journaling, which was also helpful for me. And I journaled a lot. And the things that I felt like I needed to forget, because I wanted to forget some of the painful things that I've gone through, I wanted them to be erased in my mind. But of course, they were not going to be erased like that. So, and by journaling, it really helped me to learn how to embrace life, and especially rape, which was the hardest part for me to deal with. And really, therapy helped so much, and journaling, and which led to also writing a book. So, yeah.
So, as you said, eventually you learned to share your story. So I'd love to know, when did you realize that you had a story to share and that you wanted to share it?
Of course, all those years that I, been trying to be able to deal with my own trauma and everything that I've gone through. So gradually, of course, the journaling and, it helped me to kind of release and be vulnerable. and sharing with people, gradually sharing with friends and everybody around me. So, and it made me feel like so many of us, especially some of the hardest thing I see, survivors who were not able to share their testimony. I realized by, if I start writing gradually, maybe write a book about it, it will continue helping me in my healing journey. But at the same time, it's going to help others too. So, and be able to share their testimony, because we needed to talk about what happened. So in order for the history to never be forgotten, we need to share our testimonies. So, and that was a gradual journey with the help of, so many good people around me and everybody who supported me in the journey. So I was not going to do that on my own. I really had help and support and encouragement, and really that really made me feel like, wow, I'm here for a reason. I have a purpose to be alive, and if I speak, I will speak on behalf of so many who are no longer here. So, or others who don't have the courage, who see themselves in me, and to be able to share their own testimony. So, and it was a gradual journey, but it also helped me to see what I'm here for. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as you started to share your testimony, you started to be featured on the news. You were interviewed for quite a number of publications. You have actually spoken to the UN. Mm-hmm. So what was it like for you starting out to speak publicly? It's one thing to talk within your community of survivors, to journal, start to write a book, but it's completely different to speak openly on a stage to a group of strangers. So what was that like for you when you first started speaking?
As I was mentioning, in writing and also journaling, but speaking also is another thing too, because I wasn't accustomed to speaking to a big, a big crowd of people. So, and also, culturally, that I wasn't accustomed also to express myself in a way that, especially talking about things like about genocide, it was a learning experience, but at the same time, I also, because of how I started earlier, being helped through that journey, it helped me to also know that how I will explain myself. Because of the story I was telling, everybody is going to understand me, because English is not my first language. Also, and also explaining the painful experiences. Sometimes you don't even have a language to talk about it, and throughout the whole journey with the support, it really helped me also to be able to stand up in that place where I was able to find my way to talk about it, and I'm so grateful that those who invited me were able to support me in that journey, and gradually, whenever I was on that stage, whether it's speaking at the UN or speaking to students or other people, I always know that I am speaking on behalf of so many who are no longer here. Mm-hmm. Even someone who is out there who don't have the strength or even not being able to speak. So I always carry those people with me. So I feel like it's not about only me, it's about also them. So I always carry those people with me, and knowing that I'm a voice for so many. So whenever I'm on that stage, I always feel like I'm with so many of my fellow survivors, and even those who are no longer alive. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you've worked with us here at HMTC for quite some time. Mm-hmm. You speak to students at schools, here at the museum. You've also spoken to countless groups of educators here at the museum, and you are such a pillar in our community, such a strong representation of what a survivor looks like and the importance of sharing testimony. But I'd love to hear in your own words, why do you feel that it's so important for survivors of any genocide or atrocity to speak and to share their stories?
Yeah. There's a quote I love from Dr. Elie Wiesel. He says, when you listen to a witness, you become a witness. It's one of my favorite quotes from him. So that really encourages me. Whenever I speak to and tell my story, I know that it's preserving the history, the memory, and people must learn from the past. And especially younger generation, they must learn the history, the past of what happened, because we need to make sure what happened is not forgotten, and making sure that when you listen, you learn from the history, you also help to prevent anything like that from happening again. So, and for me, I feel like whenever I feel like it's so important, so that's why I encourage everybody to share their testimony, and because you're making sure that you are planting a seed of peace, and whenever you share your testimony, you are able to help the world to be a better place, because we want to make sure that what happened to us won't happen to anybody else again, and also to make sure that the memories of those who are no longer here are still alive. So, and for me, when I do that, I always think about that, because I want to, any generation coming, to make sure that they continue sharing the testimony. Like I said, how he said, when you listen to a witness, you become a witness. If I'm no longer here, the other person is going to share our stories, and making sure that it's not forgotten. That's why I really appreciate working with hmTV. Really, that has encouraged me, has created that space for me to be able to to share the stories and make sure that what happened is not forgotten, and also to create an environment where people learn to love, and create an environment where people learn how to love one another, and create peace and harmony. So to me, it's really an amazing thing, and I'm so grateful to be part of this community, really, that has encouraged me and helped me, throughout these years to be able to do this work, and I'm grateful for that, and hopefully that many people are learning, and hopefully that we can continue, to spread that, empathy and love, and
yeah, absolutely. So, it's such a beautiful message, and we are so grateful to have you as a part of our community. And as we wrap up here, I want to address that, hatred around the world has been on the rise in recent years, especially anti-Semitism here in the United States. So I'd love for you to close out the episode today by sharing any words of wisdom or message to today's youth, especially, because they're the future, they're the next generation, and that's who we primarily work with here. That's primarily who you speak to here. And we want to make sure that they create a world where, as you say, peace and love prevails over hate and discrimination. So do you have any message that you'd like to leave for the future generations?
For the younger generation, it's important to learn your history. It's important to learn from the past, because when you learn from the past, you prevent from any hatred from happening, because hate is like poison. Really, it destroyed humanity. So, and you need to make sure that you spread love amongst yourselves. So, one of the things that I always say that whenever you see injustice, you must speak out, because silence favors perpetrators. So to me, learn how to love one another, learn how to, to bring peace in your environment, in your space, and harmony, and learn from the past and the history, and make sure that no one distort any history. So to me, I feel like, and at the same time, there's another message I always like to leave to anyone, no matter what horrible circumstances you may face in your life, never lose hope. For losing hope is the beginning of your own self-defeat. I just want to probably end with that.
Thank you so much, Consolee. You are such a gem, such a wonderful spirit. We are so grateful to have you as a member of our community, as someone who can speak out against hate today and hate back when you experienced it firsthand during the genocide. We are so beyond lucky to have you. And I am so privileged to have the time to sit down with you today and speak with you. So really, I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much as always for tuning in. You can find more hmTV podcasts at hmtcli.org or anywhere else that you get your podcasts.